The first time I saw the light in the woods, I thought it was a person standing out there, waiting for me. A single lantern bobbing between the trees, glowing just bright enough to show the outline of something tall behind it. I should have gone back inside. I should have told someone. But when your house is breaking apart, one argument at a time, even the dark outside can feel safer. The night it happened, my dad had slammed the front door so hard it shook dust from the ceiling, while my mum stayed in the kitchen, staring at her wine glass like she was waiting for it to apologize. The whole house felt swollen with leftover shouting, so I stepped out the back door. Not to run away, just to breathe. The air outside was cold and clean, nothing like the stale heaviness inside. My feet sank into the damp grass as I crossed the yard, following that strange, trembling glow between the trees. It flickered once, like someone shifting their grip on a handle. That was when the shape behind it moved. Too tall, too still, too wrong to be a person. I didn't scream. I couldn't. The lantern swayed gently, like it was studying me from the dark instead of trying to scare me. And for reasons I still don't understand, I stepped closer. I remember looking up at the sky and thinking it looked bruised, purple around the edges, with a black center. I remember my heart beating fast, but not from fear, just a buzzing kid feeling of being awake when you shouldn't be. Then, from between the trees, a light blinked. At first I thought it was someone's phone, or a flashlight, but it was too steady and too soft. A warm, yellow-white glow hovered low, then rose slowly, like someone lifting a lantern. He stepped out of the tree line, holding it. He was tall, taller than my dad, his shoulders crooked like he'd grown into the wrong directions. His body was wrapped in what I thought was moss at first, strings of dark green hanging from him in strips, tangled with dead leaves, his hands wrapped around the lantern's handle. They were long and thin, the fingers too jointed, like they were extra bones inside. His face was the worst part. There wasn't one, instead there was a smooth, pale oval, like a wooden mask left unpainted. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a slight roughness in the grain. Shadows flowing over where features should be. The lantern he held was small and old looking. Maybe it was brass or something like it, with 4 smoky glass panels. Inside, where a candle should have burned, a cluster of tiny lights floated. They flickered soft and tired, like lightning bugs trapped in a jar. We stared at each other, or rather, I stared. I didn't know how he was seeing me. He took one step out of the trees, and the lantern's glow brightened just enough that I could see my own hands shaking when I looked down. I opened my mouth to scream, but the sound snagged. What came out was a tiny, wheezing noise. He stopped. Instead of coming closer, he lifted the lantern a little higher, tilting it towards me, like someone showing a flashlight to a scared kid. The light washed over my bare feet, which spilled across the dead patches of grass, softened the hard angles of the back fence. Warmth seeped into my chest, slow and strange. My heart calmed without my permission. Then my mum's voice snapped across the yard. "Aaron, where are you?" I jerked my head back towards the house. When I looked at the trees again, the lantern was gone. The strips of wood was just black and flat and empty, like it had never moved. I told her what I saw. She smelled like Chardonnay and dish soap. As she crouched in front of me, she said, "You had a bad dream, baby, that's all." "I was awake," I insisted. "Then your brain is playing tricks. No more scary stories with your little friends, okay?" When I got inside, my dad didn't say anything. He was sitting on the couch, staring at the blank television screen like it was showing him something only he could see. That night, I fell asleep, staring at the sliding glass door and the strip of trees beyond it, waiting for the lantern. It didn't come. Not that night, Not for a long time. By the time I was 12, everyone in the neighborhood knew about the Lantern Eater. Even if nobody agreed on what it looked like. It eats flashlights, one kid said. That's why phones die so fast in the woods. It eats people, another whispered. Like that was original. First it makes you follow the light, then chomp. Someone claimed it ate secrets. Someone else said it was a hobo. But I didn't correct any of them. I didn't say, actually, it doesn't have a face. Actually, its light feels like standing under those heat lamps in a restaurant bathroom. Actually, it showed up the first night my dad slept at the hotel instead of home. It became easier to treat it like a story. Easier than admitting something from the woods knew my name before my own father bothered to call just to talk. I stopped sleeping well around then. Nights got longer and louder. Mum started working extra shifts. And when she was home, she wasn't really home. Just orbiting the couch with a glass in her hand. Sometimes I would hear her arguing with my dad through the phone. His voice, a muffled roar I could only catch every third word of. Sometimes, when it got too much, I would slip outside like I had the first night. One of those nights when I was 13 and trying to pretend my hands weren't shaking from the way Mum had sobbed into the sink. And then I would see the light again. The lantern appeared farther back in the trees this time. A weak pulse through the branches. It moved slowly parallel to the fence, matching my steps as I walked the edge of the yard. I didn't go closer. He didn't either. We just moved together, separated by a strip of dirt and wood and a dozen small, unspoken fears. "Why are you here?" I whispered, not expecting an answer. The lantern held steady. The warmth brushed across my skin like barely there breeze. For the first time in days, my stomach unclenched. When I went back inside, the helps felt the same, but I didn't. I slept. Not great, but better. By 15, I knew what oxys looked like in someone's palm. I knew how booze burned going down and how to swallow it anyways. I knew how it felt up to wake up at 3 a.m. with your heart racing and the edges of your life fraying. By this time, Dad had a new family in another town. Mum had a new boyfriend who liked the TV loud, and my presence minimal. I had a pile of late assignments, a small pile of friends, and a growing collection of things in my bloodstream that made the world feel less sharp. The first time I saw the lantern again, away from home, I was sitting behind a strip mall with two guys who weren't really my friends. We passed a bottle between us in the blue glow of a busted security light. The asphalt was cracked, and the air smelled like old oil and the fried stuff from the cheap Chinese place. One of the guys, Ty, was telling a story about someone overdosing in a bathroom. He said it too casually, like he was describing a movie. I laughed at the right parts. It sounded exaggerated, distant, not like something that would ever actually happen to us. Then the world tilted. Not all at once, just a slow slide like my body leaned a few degrees and forgot to stop. My fingers went numb around the bottom. "Dude, you good?" The other one asked. His voice sounded like it had been recorded and played back through a cheap speaker. I blinked. Beyond the edge of the parking lot, across the narrow strip of a scrub brush and trash, something glowed. A lantern, small, dull, familiar. It dangled at the edge of the little patch of trees behind the mall, rocking slightly on an unseen hand. The lights inside it were barely embers. He was there. I knew it. As surely as I knew my own name. The bottle slid from my fingers and rolled away. Nobody grabbed it. I pointed. "Do you guys see that?" Ty squinted. See what?" "The light, right there." My voice sounded too loud in my own ears. There was a pause that stretched long and uncomfortable. "Nah, man," the other guy said, somewhere between annoyed and spooked. You're seeing things. I tried to stand. The ground tried to swim. The lantern bobbed once, like a nod, then started to drift backwards into the trees. Panic clawed upon my throat. Wait. I heard myself say, Don't go. The other exchanged a look I hated. Think he's done, Ty muttered. Hands grabbed at my shoulders, trying to steer me away. Back to the car, back to the noise, and the pills, and the jokes about dying that weren't really jokes. I twisted out of their grip. Or I thought I did. My legs turned to wet rope. The world broke into pieces and slid apart. For a second before everything went black, the only thing I could see clearly was that lantern, swaying gently in the dark. After that, the creatures started appearing more. Not like a jump scare, not like a monster, just there. In the reflection of a puddle, I staggered home in the rain at 17. Its lantern floating over my shoulder. In the glass of a bus window, as the city lights smeared past, a faint face less shape standing on the sidewalk, watching the bus go by. At the far end of the alley, when I leaned against the wall, dizzy and too tired to walk, the lantern's glow painting my breath in thin white clouds. Sometimes, when my chest was tight and my thoughts wouldn't shut up, I would feel a warmth brush against me. Not enough to fix anything, but just enough to stop me from taking the next pill, that next sip. Stop following me, I snapped once, half to myself, half to the thing at the end of the street. The Lantern Eater, that's what I called it in my head now. Like everyone else, like if I named it I could shove it into the same box as all the other stories that weren't real. It didn't move closer. It didn't retreat. The lantern's glow pulsed, steady and stubborn. Go haunt some other sad kid, I muttered. It stayed. The night everything broke, I was 18. I'd already dropped out of school. My mum and I barely spoke, and her boyfriend had stopped pretending to be nice and started pretending I wasn't there. That night, the house felt like a stranger's. The walls were too close, the air too stale, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd laughed without feeling guilty about it. A friend loose definition of that word pressed something into my hand in the bathroom that smelled like bleach and mold. It'll take the edge off, he said. You look like you need it. He wasn't wrong. I'd been building to this quietly. A little more here, a little stronger there, the kind of math you do in your head when you're trying not to notice the pattern. I took it. Back home, in my small cluttered room, I lay on the bed and waited for whatever was going to happen. The ceiling blurred and swam. My arms felt like they were sinking into the mattress. It was warm at first, then heavy, then nothing. The last thing I remember seeing in that room was the faint outline of a light seeping around the edges of my window shade. It shouldn't have been there. The backyard faced away from the streets. There I saw it, lantern light. For a second, my heart remembered how to race, then it forgot again. When I opened my eyes, I was standing. The bed was gone, my room was gone. The house, the town, the whole world I knew was gone. I stood in a forest of lanterns. They hung from branches that didn't exist, suspended in mid-air, thousands of them stretching off in every direction like stars at eye level. Some burned bright gold, some dull orange, some barely a smouldering red. A few were dead and black, their glass cracked, their insides hollow. The ground under my feet was soft and colourless, like walking on packed ash. The air smelled like dust and rain that hadn't fallen yet. I turned in a slow circle. Every lantern within reach was different. Different glass, different handles, different shapes. But they all felt the same when I got close. Familiar, in a way that made my chest ache. One of them hung inches from my face. Inside, tiny images flickered across the drifting lights. Me at 6 running through sprinklers. Me at 10 blowing out candles on a cake while my parents pretended everything was fine. Me at 12 drawing superheroes in the margins of math homework. Within each memory, the tiny lights brightened, then dimmed again. Another lantern swung nearby. Inside, I saw myself at 16, sitting on my bed, staring at a bottle in my hands. My face was pinched and tired. The lights inside that lantern were dimmer, slower to flare. "Those are yours." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. A low creaking sound like wind through an old floorboard. I turned. He stood a few yards away, lantern in hand. He was taller here than I remembered, or maybe I was shorter. His moth-draped body looked worn, strings of green frayed and falling away. The wooden mask of his face was cracked in two long branching lines, bisecting where eyes might have been. His lantern burned low. The little lights inside, it sputtered like they were fighting for breath. "You." My voice came out thin. "What is this?" He tilted his head. Somehow without features, he managed to look tired. "This is what you've given away," he said. I reached for the nearest lantern. My fingers passed through the glass like fog. The lights flared briefly, then they collapsed, leaving only an ache in my chest. "Don't," he said. "You'll take them all at once and burn yourself." I laughed. It sounded ugly. Burn myself? I think I already did that. Far off, somewhere deep in the lantern forest, a sound echoed, a hollow, distant boom, like something big shifting in its sleep. I shivered. "Am I dead?" "Not yet," he said. "You're balanced between going and staying, like someone pausing in a doorway." He stepped closer. The warmth of his lantern brushed my skin, but it wasn't enough to chase away the cold gathering in my hands and feet. "Who are you?" I asked. I'd been waiting years to ask that and forgot every version of the question I'd rehearsed in my head. "Well, what are you?" He considered that for a long moment. "I am what remains when no one else wants to stay," he said. "I eat the lanterns that go dark so they don't fall into things worse than me." I swallowed. "You eat them?" He nodded once. "Lantern Eater. That's one name. There are others. They are longer." "And these are mine?" I gestured at the thousands of hanging lights. "Pieces of you," he said. "Moments, feelings, hopes." His lantern flickered a little brighter as he looked around. "You had more once. I was full following you. You were heavy to hold." There was something like fondness in his voice. "Now you are light." I turned slowly, taking in the sheer number of lanterns stretched in the grey distance. "So this is my light?" He made a small creaking sound that might have been a sigh. "It is what is left." He lifted his own lantern. "The rest went here." Inside his lantern, the lights were different. They weren't memories, they were colours. Thick, dark swirls, deep blues and angry reds, all knotted together. With each pulse, his wooden skin cracked a little deeper. I realized what I was looking at. "My bad stuff," I said dumbly. "Your despair," he corrected. "You're empty. You're wanting to be gone. You threw it away each time it got too heavy. Someone had to catch it." The cracks in his face glowed faintly from within, like something burning slow behind the wood. "I ate it so no one else would." All the anger I'd been stockpiling over the years rushed up at once. "So what?" I snapped. "I should thank you? You stalked me my whole life. You watched me fall apart and snacked on the crumbs?" "I watched you because no one else did," he said quietly. The distant boom sounded again, closer this time. Some of the dark lanterns in the far distance swung wildly, as if something had brushed past them. "If I had not come," he went on, "they would have." "Who?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. In the gaps between the hanging lanterns, the grey deepened to black. Shapes moved there. Too tall and thin to be trees. Too wrong to be people. The hairs on my arms rose. "You fed anyways," I said. because it was easier to focus on my anger than on whatever was shifting in the dark. You still ate it. I took what you couldn't carry, he said, so you didn't break sooner. His lantern's glow guttered, but you kept finding more. I thought of the alleyways, the parking lots, the bedrooms with the doors that never quite closed right. I thought of all the times I'd look at the bottom of the barrel or a baggie and felt like something inside me had poured out to join it. Shame stung my throat. What happens if you eat too much? I asked. He laughed, then a low, brittle sound. What do you think? His moss-covered shoulders sagged. Splinters of light leaked from the cracks in his wooden mask. I am tired, Aaron, he said. You gave me so much of your worst that I am breaking. When I break, the lanterns I hold will break too. The pieces of you in here will be gone, and the things in the dark will drink what I drop. The idea of myself being poured out into those moving shadows made my stomach lurch. Can't you just, stop? I asked. Spit it out? I don't spit, he said. I only eat. All at once, the forest of lanterns tilted. Not physically, but in the way a room does when you stand up too fast. Somewhere far beyond the hanging lights, a thin piercing tone began to ring. It drilled into my skull, high and constant. What's that? I clapped my hands over my ears. It didn't help. Your other body, he said. The meat one. It's fighting to keep you. I tried to picture what that meant. My own chest on a hospital bed. Tubes, hands, panic. My mind skidded away from it. Can I go back? I asked. The words surprised me. A week ago, I might have said no. A year ago, I would have said I didn't care. Now looking at all the lanterns around me, at myself, at every small, stupid, bright moment I'd ever taken for granted, I wasn't so sure. The lantern eater tilted his head again, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. There's not much left to work, child, he said. You poured out so much that what is remain is thin. Please, I said. I didn't try to dress it up as anything else. I don't want to go into the dark. You called for it so often, he said. I know, my voice cracked. I was so wrong. We stood there, surrounded by thousands of versions of me. The ringing in the distance grew louder, joined by a rhythmic thumping, like someone pounding on a door from the other side. If I give you back what I've eaten, he said slowly, it will hurt. I think I deserve to hurt, I said. It will hurt me, he clarified. I looked at his lantern, at the swirl of heavy black-blue despair churning inside, at the cracks in the mass, the splitting wood along his fingers. What happens to you? I asked. He looked up at the lantern forest, then back at me. I don't know. I've never been this full before. He shifted his weight. Threads of moss fell from his shoulders and vanished before they hit the ground. Why do you care? I asked. Genuinely, for once. Why me? There are other people, worse people, better ones. Why did you stay? He seemed to consider that. When you were small, he said. You went outside when the shouting started. You stepped towards the dark and said my name. I frowned. I didn't know your name. You said, is someone there? He replied. You said it like you hoped there was. No one had ever done that before. My throat closed up. I remember that night, bare feet, bruised sky, the soft, impossible warmth of a lantern light. I remember how lonely I'd been, how I'd wished with the full, naive force of a child that something, anything, would come and say, I see you. So you just stayed? I said. I stay until the lantern goes out, he said, or until something worse takes it. He spread his long fingers. Splinters rained down. I would like it not to be the second one this time. The ringing built into a shrill, constant scream. The thumping turned to jolts like the ground itself was hiccuping. Is that them? I asked. nodding at the shifting black between the lanterns. No, he stopped closer, so close the heat from his lantern warmed my face. That's the people trying to drag you back. Then why are you still here? Because you have to want it, he said. You have to choose. The thought of the house, my mum's boyfriend, the pills, the long string of days that all felt the same shade of grey. I thought of my mother, tired and brittle. I thought of my father, a ghost with a fresh family. Then I thought of my 6-year-old self chasing sprinkler arcs. I thought of the way it felt to draw in the margins of a notebook. I thought of the laughing so hard at the stupid video that my stomach hurt. I thought of all the lanterns around us that were dim, not dead, flickering, waiting. I choose to stay, I said. The lantern eater nodded once. It looked relieved. He raised his lantern. The dark inside it writhed, sensing something coming. The wooden body holding it together groaned. This will break me, he said. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be. His voice creaked, softened now. I am tired of eating alone. He pulled the lantern's door open. The world exploded. All the heavy black-blue despair I'd offloaded came roaring back into me in a single impossible surge. Every night on a bathroom floor, every shaking hand, every thought of I don't want to be here slammed through my veins at once. My legs buckled, pain tore through my chest like someone had reached in and squeezed my heart. Make it stop, I gasped, even though I'd just asked for exactly this. Feel it, he said. His voice came from very far away. You can't throw it away anymore. You have to carry it and let it change. The darkness kept coming. It crawled up my arm, down my legs, filling my skull until I thought it would crack. Just when I was sure I would split in half, something else surged with it. Small, stubborn, bright. Lanterns around us flared one by one. Me at 8, climbing a tree. Me at 14, helping a stranger pick up dropped groceries. Me at 7, staring at myself in the mirror and whispering, I don't want to die. I just don't know how to live. The memories burned through the despair like sparks catching dry grass. The pain didn't vanish. It just changed. It stretched out, making room. I felt all of it, everything I'd tried to drown, compress, ignore, stabilize into something that didn't feel like it was going to tear me apart. I sank to my knees, shaking. When I could finally lift my head, the lantern eater was dim. His body was almost translucent, moss hanging in tatters. The cracks in his mask were wider, leaking faint light. His lantern was empty. What happens now? I asked, my voice hoarse. Now you put more lanterns up, he said, on your own. Behind him, the shadows between the lanterns shuddered, then receded, like something disappearing, turning away from a meal it had almost claimed. The ringing in the air became rapid, stuttering, beep. The forest of lanterns began to fade at the edges. We'll see each other again, I blurted. He tilted his head, listening to something only he could hear. If you dim too far, he said, I'll be there. He sounded both sad and content, but I hope I don't have to be. He reached out one long finger and tapped the center of my chest. Heat blew there, sharp and bright. Then the lantern forehead dissolved. I woke up screaming. My throat was raw. My chest hurt like someone had jumped on it. My vision was full of white light and moving shapes and masks. Easy, Aaron, easy. Hands pressed me back as I tried to sit. A woman in scrubs leaned over, her eyes wide. You're in the hospital, you overdosed. We nearly lost you. The beeping I'd heard in the lantern forest was a heart monitor beside the bed. It steadied as I laid back, panting. Something plastic tugged at my arm. IV, hospital gown, sterile smell, my mother somewhere to my right sobbing into her hands. I hadn't seen her cry like that since the divorce. You're okay, she gasped between tears. You're okay, baby. I didn't feel okay. My body hurt, my head hurt. My chest felt like it had been hollowed or refilled with something sharp. But I was here, alive. The pain didn't feel like punishment. It felt like proof. I turned my head towards the window for a second, just one. There I saw a faint reflection there that didn't belong to anyone in the room, a tall, crooked shape holding a small, empty lantern. The wooden mast inclined in the barest hint of a nod. Then, as a nurse walked past and blocked my view, it was gone. Recovery was ugly. No one tells you that in the stories. They talk about epiphanies, about turning points, about the decision to get clean like it's a switch you flip and everything falls into place. For me, it was more like learning to walk after a long illness. One step, then another, sometimes falling, sometimes staying on the floor longer than I should have. There was rehab. There were group meetings in rooms that smelled like coffee and old chairs. There were awkward apologies that didn't fix the past, but loosened its grip. My mum's boyfriend left when I got out of the hospital. I don't know if it was guilt or inconvenience that drove him out, but I decided I didn't care. Mum and I started talking again, really talking, not just exchanging logistics. It was clumsy, with long pauses and backtracks, but it was something. I got a part-time job at a print shop. The first paycheck felt like a lantern lighting up, somewhere in that grey space I'd seen. I still had bad days when the weight of everything I remembered pressed down, so hard I wanted to lie on the floor and become part of it. On those days, I would go for walks, not to the strip mall, or the alleys, or the places I used to haunt, to the woods, the house I grew up in, or someone else's now. But the line of scrubs, trees at the edge of the yard was the same. I stood at the fence, hands in my pockets, and I stared into the dark. "Thank you," I said, once, feeling stupid and sincere at the same times. The trees didn't answer, but deep between their trunks, I thought I saw a brief flicker. Not a porch light, not a phone, a lantern, just one. It glowed warmly for a heartbeat, then it dimmed. Not gone, just resting. I smiled. A small, careful thing. "I'll try not to need you," I whispered, "but I'm glad you stayed." The wind moved through the branches, making them hiss. Somewhere, a dog barked and didn't cut off. I turned and walked back towards the street light, and the bus stop, and the life that was waiting for me. The pain and the hope went with me, pressed tight against my ribs. Above the trees, unseen, a faint light pulsed once more, like a guardian blinking in tired satisfaction, watching as one of its lanterns at last started to refuel itself.